And on to solving percent problems. Something that I failed to bring up here in my notes is, what are percent problems? Well, percent problems are the way people describe things. There was a 10% increase in sales. I recently had a 5% decrease in body mass. So it's just the way people talk. And if you get into the world of business, it gets used a fair amount. Not as much in engineering and science, but it's still there. So since they always pop up, we need to learn how to use them. And the first thing to do is memorize some of these phrases. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about this phrase. Big part to worry about is right here of B. But A is P% of B if, and this of course ties in with the ratios proportions we're doing, A over B equals P over 100. None of that means anything until we get to an actual problem. So what percent of 25 is 17? Well, I just said of, and whatever's after the of is the B value. So we've got 25 equals, and what percent? Well, P stands for percent, so we don't know that. P over 100, and that means this has to be the A value. So that's how I work those out. Now we could cross multiply. Excuse me, forgot to write in what the actual A was, but we can just solve it. Make our lives a little bit easier. 1, 4, that gets me P equals 68. So 68, my bad, 17 is 68% of 25. That's it. Now, I don't like that way doing the problems this way, so I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to write it as this: A equals P% times B. And A equals P% times B could also be written as A equals P over 100 times B, which is the way I'm typically going to write it. So we just did this problem. Let's do it again. 17 equals P times, where's the of? That's my B value, 25. So we just divide by 25. And we get P equals 0.68, which is the same as 68%. And now it's just practice. What number is 15%? So that has a percent in it, so that's my P value. Of, so that's my B value. And we've got the A equals P% times B. So it's pretty straightforward from there. A equals 0.15 times 88. Gonna need a calculator fairly often in this unit. We get A equals 13.2. 20 is 12.5% of what number? So we didn't get that, so that's going to be my B. So this has to be my A because this has to be my P. So 20 equals 0.125, and that's writing it without the percent by dividing by 100. Simply move the decimal point 2 points over, 2 places over, times B. So divide by 0.125, divide by 0.125. You get B equals 160. Simple enough. Lots of practice on these. You can get lost and confused. Always come back to A equals P% times B. That will set you free. Moving on, getting away from numbers and the work with the variables. We're going to move to working with just variables. If we're given the equation AX plus B equals C, how do we solve for X? Well, here's AX plus B equals C, and that means that A, B, and C are constants because you can never divide by a variable. I'm going to write that down, and I will repeat it often. I think when I test on this one day, I'm going to make that my extra credit on my final exam. If I were to put extra credit on a final exam. Never divide by a variable. So let's solve this. Do the addition subtraction first. AX equals negative B plus C. We could have put them in either spot. Divide by A, divide by A, divide by A. We get X equals negative B plus C over a. And that's it. And we could have written it as negative b over a plus c over a if you really wanted to, but it doesn't matter. And the reason we do that is now we can do what's in math terms called plug and chug. Looking at this equation, ax plus b equals c, well, we just solved it. We got x equals negative b plus c over a. Well, obviously a has to equal 2, b equals 5, and c equals 11. So we can just plug them in. Negative 5 plus 11 all over 2 equals 6 over 2 equals 3. So we get x equals 3. Now, personally, I would rather put these numbers into here and just solve that equation, but this can be a way that you can set up a spreadsheet or a simpler way to do a problem if you weren't sure what the constant's going to be until much later. It'll save you some time. So the real way we're going to use it is when we get to the next unit, we start graphing things. We need everything in terms of y. So if I gave you something like 3x plus 2y equals 8, instead of write it as y, here's what you do. You move everything around. Move the negative 3x over there. 2y equals negative 3x plus 8. Divide everything by 2. Cancels. 4. Y equals negative 3 halves x plus 4. And definitely write it that way, because when you go to graph, it's a lot easier to graph it when it sets up like that. And finally, sometimes we want to solve formulas. We know what the area is going to be, we know what the base is, we don't know what the height is, so let's solve it for height. So we write it as a equals 1/2 base times height, and we divide by base, get h equals, 1/2 h equals a over b, multiply by 2, get h equals 2a over b. You will use this a lot in science classes. You have a formula and you have to solve it for a different variable. So, area of the triangle is 64.4. Don't like the way I'm writing things. And the base length, otherwise known as b, equals 14. We don't have any units here, so we can just bang them through. What's the height going to be? Well, just put it in. 2 times 64.4 over 14 equals 9.2. That's it. Practice, practice. Good luck.